early days, where it was just myself and my co-founder Jim, uh, we both had been through multiple jobs at different companies, and I'm kind of like my approach is to take the things that worked well and to leave the things that don't, right? So every experience you have in a job or a position, you win or you learn, right? And you take those learnings forward. So when we started Clarity, we were pretty intentional about what we wanted to be, how we wanted our customers to feel, how we wanted eventually our employees to feel. And it just comes down to a philosophy or an ethos, your core values, the things that you say, similar to when you were a child. If you felt like your parent was being unfair, you'd say, well, I'll never do that if I have kids, right? That's kind of what we did. And so what we ended up with was this collection of values that help steer every step after that.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we look at how to create effective leaders. When you're looking to scale, you might be experiencing chaos. You might be experiencing some type of market feedback that is negative to you and is, getting in the way of you scaling the way you want to. I claim that you need better leaders around you. When you have better leaders, that you are able to let go of some of those things and trust those people, empower them so that you can step back from the business, look at the horizon, look at the things that are missing, look at the areas where you need to slow down and fix and address, or where you need to speed up and what's getting in the way. Because if you're in the day-to-day as a CEO or as a top-level leader of a company, you're missing things. And so you want to build the leaders around you. Today, we have the co-founder of Clarity Retail Services. His name is Lance Madden, and he's the CEO of the company. They've made the Inc. list 3 times, and we talk about how to build effective leaders. And what he goes through is talking about, what he really wanted to create. What was the core foundation of this? I will tell you its values and how they did that very intentionally from the very beginning, set up the foundation for the team as it grew to 75 people. And so when you think about this, I want you to take notes. I want you to really think about how you could do the things that are mentioned a little bit better. I'm not asking you to completely revamp everything. If you want help revamping, I'm happy to help you. But if you want to get some value out of this and you want to see some movement, take something that you hear from today's podcast and ask your team, how do we rally around this and how do we make this improve this area? It can be anything inside your business that needs to be improved. It could be SOPs, it can be sales, marketing, it could be the way we communicate with each other, the way we hold meetings. It doesn't matter. Put forth some effort to improve things. So today we look at how to build effective leaders as you scale with Lance. And before we get into it, my name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. Been doing this for about 12 years. Started in 2010, got certified, and I really love working with fast growth companies like the Inc. 5000 that are positioned for more growth. If you want to grow your company, if you want to get past a certain revenue milestone, whether it be 10 million, 50 million, or 100 million, I've done all of that with my clients. I'd love to help you. My whole way of being is to help you as a leader lead from the front and really lead in a way that is powerful to those around you. And then how does that transfer down throughout the organization? Now, in order to complement that, we've actually gone down into the organizations of our clients, and we've created a way to turn managers into leaders. And so we call this our leadership development platform. And it really does help you close the gap and build a better leadership pipeline across your business. So that's just a little bit about who I am, what I do. And then if you want to connect with us as a company or just to see what we're about, one way to do that is through virtual conversations. Every month, we host an incredible opportunity for you to hear from others about what their perspective is on a specific topic. The next one coming up is in early April, and we're going to be talking about what do PE firms use to assess the leadership and their valuation calculations. Like, what are the key terms or the different stages that they're looking at for organizations? I will tell you right now, if you want to have the highest valuation, you want to make sure that you have a company that's sort of self-managed. You are not essential to the organization and the execution as you used to be. You are almost secondary. You may be not even needed. That would be the ideal valuation for your company, because then your company is standalone and you're not going to need it to stay around as long. Now, I've gone into too much detail on this, but if you want to know more about the virtual conversations, the next one coming up is in early April. Just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. Now, here's the interview with Lance. Lance, how are you?
Good. How are you, Gene?
Fantastic.
Great.
We're going to dive into today's conversation about being an effective leader. But before we do that, I would love for you to tell us about your business, Clarity Retail Services.
Sure. So Clarity Retail Services is 9 years old. My co-founder, Jim Gavigan, and I were a former customer and vendor. That's how we met each other. What Clarity does is we design, manufacture, and project manage all the things in the stores, retail stores, let's say, that aren't available for purchase. So it's all of the signage that tell you where you are in the store, right down to the shelf level. We answer the questions that consumers have, whether they're explicit or implied needs, as far as, what makes this printer better than this printer? Why are the prices different? So it's all about navigation, education, and motivation in the stores.
What came to me when you were describing that was what you're trying to do is optimize the retail experience for the customer and for the store.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. In the absence, most of the time I say, if people still have questions about what it is exactly, physically, what do you do in the stores? I said, well, have you ever been in a store that's hard to navigate? It's hard to find your way around. It's hard to understand. You can't, there's no other resources to answer questions. That's the time that people notice what we do, because if we do our job, it flows. Right. You don't have to ask yourself where are the restrooms, or where's customer service, or where's men's or women's, all those things.
I want to ask you a question because I just don't know. It seems like retail shopping is changing and people are preferring online, but we know at some place it's not going to go away. So what are the biggest changes you see on the horizon for retail experience?
Well, I think that, there's certainly, with Amazon and a lot of the, we'll call it digital native stores, where, like Warby Parker, or let's say Untuckit is a good example. They started purely online, and they've now opened physical stores, because there is definitely something to a lot of shoppers that it's a tangible, interactive experience. And that's what drives physical retail. So we see a lot of blending of customer journeys that'll start online and end in store, or vice versa. So it just really depends on the exact retailer. I like to say that, not that I have a lot of experience anymore with haircuts, but you'll never get a haircut on the internet, right? So you have to go somewhere physically to experience that brand. So
I will tell you, I've got multiple clients that have physical products all online. And in the past 12 or 18 months, they've all gone and built retail or plan to build retail this year.
Yeah,
so
not surprising.
Yeah. And I get it. And they're doing well with the retail. The ones that are standing up really is, outpacing their expectations, which is fantastic. Lance, I brought you here not to talk about your business, unfortunately, but to talk about, what does it take to have effective leadership and really create a winning team, and a team that's continuously learning. And so let's dive into this whole concept.
Sure.
I want to frame this in, because you made the Inc. list multiple times. By my calculations, it's 3 times in a row.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's impressive, because that's 6 years of constant growth, because it takes 3 years to get there.
Right.
Just letting the audience know. What do you think really contributes to your success as a company?
I think that really early days, where it was just myself and my co-founder, Jim, we both had been through multiple jobs at different companies, and I'm kind of like my approach is to take the things that worked well and to leave the things that don't, right? So every experience you have in a job or a position, you win or you learn, right? And you take those learnings forward. So when we started Clarity, we were pretty intentional about what we wanted to be, how we wanted our customers to feel, how we wanted eventually our employees to feel. And it comes down to a philosophy or an ethos, your core values, the things that you say, similar to when you were a child. If you felt like your parent was being unfair, you'd say, well, I'll never do that if I have kids, right? That's kind of what we did. And so what we ended up with was this collection of values that help steer every step after that. And that's kind of, I think that the biggest thing for us is to early on establish what you want to be.
I will tell you, I've had hundreds of people on the show talk about values, and you put it in a unique way. Not everyone talks about values because as a central part of their business, but 70, 80%. And still you had the way you talked about that was, I think, really important for our audience to hear. And I'm just reinforcing it in this moment. The values steer the direction of the company and really guide you intentionally to create the experience that the customers, that the employees want, that you want as leaders and founders. And it's not something I think is negotiable. This is a mandatory part of a successful company building a culture that works.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if you have those values, and they can't just be wordsmith, it can't just be fluff. It has to set the foundation for every decision that you make as a company. And then when you do bring on additional team members, again, it's not just a printout. You work those values every day. That's what creates the culture, and then the culture starts to self-sustain, right? If you've got 85, 90% of the people on board with that philosophy and they know it and they work it, it really does result in a cumulative positive effect.
I agree. So we've been talking about effective leadership. And so I want to back up a level and look at, as your company's grown, what have you learned about leadership that you didn't know when you started this journey?
I think, just my own personality style is, if left to my own devices, I'm a bit of an introvert, but I also am not afraid to step up when I see that it's needed. And so I would say that early on, especially when you had just a small team, maybe 10 or 12 people, you're in a leadership role, but you might not realize that you are, because things are very collaborative. You talk to everybody in the team, you interact with everyone on the team, and you don't necessarily, again, realize that the people that you work with every day look to you as the leader. I would draw an analogy to high school. Let's say you're a freshman, you look up to the upperclassmen, right? And as you get to the next grade, you don't really realize it, but the people behind you are looking up to you. So it can be sneaky, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, I'm not talking to everybody all the time because the team has grown. In the absence of leadership, everybody just kind of takes their own path or creates their own way, which might be good or it might not be good. So the realization for me was I've got to take a more active role in leadership, especially in the last few years as we've really grown exponentially.
So Lance has been talking about values. And one of the things I wanted to highlight here is, how can you create your own values if you don't have them yet, or you need to refresh them? And so the refresh and the don't have yet, a little bit different, but basically you want to make sure the ones that you have re-audition in for their lead in the play, if you will. The analogy, hopefully you get that, but you don't want to just assume that what you had continues to stay there. We want them to re-audition. And so the quick and dirty of this is for you as a top level leader to think about the values of the people that are the best employees, the ones that are performing at the highest, that have the highest alignment with your culture and values now. And you want to make sure you identify what are their values and the personal traits that happen. I have no idea what you'll come up with, but that's where you start. And then you document that down. Maybe you get to 10 or 12, And then you as an executive team can have a conversation about those 10 or 12. You can add a few more, you can debate, you can discuss, who are we? And you want to just keep asking that question, who are we? Who are we? And that will help you come up with your values. And then, to finalize this, you just narrow it down with your executive team to 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. Some people have more values. I like to have a smaller number. And then you're able to share them with your team, the key members in the team, and get some feedback. And you're able to start to finalize this. And then once you do that, then you're able to have a new set of values. Hopefully that helps. We are going to be developing some books. And if you need some support on this, make sure you reach out, send me an email, Gene@GeneHammett. I'll give you what we have. And we have some worksheets and things like that will help you, but happy to do that for you at no cost. Back to Lance. It's interesting for someone who's successful in business. You said 9 years ago is when you started, and I know you have experience before that.
Correct.
But you're bringing that into this world, and then you're like, oh, I'm realizing that I need to take leadership more seriously, and I need to grow as a leader. And so I'm just curious, what were the first things you worked on when you initially thought, I need to grow as a leader? What were you doing?
I think more just being introspective and understanding my own personality and how I communicate and relate to others. First of all, you have to know your own strengths and weaknesses. And I tend to have a little difficulty when it comes to delegating because for so long, even before we started Clarity, I was kind of like, in the context of a big company, I was a little kind of microcosm because I could do design, and I can be in front of a customer and do the selling, and I can project manage and plan and estimate and all those things. And when you're used to being a one-man band for so long, I found it difficult to recognize when I should be, all right, this needs to be delegated because someone else in this organization, on this team, can do the same work. And that means that I can focus on other things. And so, there are signs if you're not stepping up as a leader, that vacuum manifests in a number of different ways.
We all can relate to that one-man band time.
Mm-hmm.
And as you grow and add to the team, it makes sense for you to go through the troubles that you were describing. But when you get to the point where you have 75 people like you have now, what's it like? When you look at delegation, how have you made that connection to what delegation actually does for the organization?
Yeah, I think that for me, one of the things that I recognize through this process is that sometimes you have to slow down to go fast or go faster, right? It's the analogy would be, and trust me, I ran track for a couple of years, but but the analogy is when the baton gets passed from one runner to another, A, you have to practice that. B, you can't run full sprint the entire time, right? When you're passing the baton, you have to slow down a little bit to make sure that you've got that solid connection. The other runner has the baton squarely in their hand before they can begin sprinting again, right? So for me in business, to recognize when to delegate and then to recognize that there will be an investment of my time and energy to onboard that person so that they're ready to take the baton, right? And the tricky part is, if you're not intentional and you don't think about it actively, myself, I would power through and do it myself because I knew that I could do it faster than anyone else. And that's not always the right answer.
Now, Lance just said something that I really appreciate and enjoy. And actually, it's a word that I used to use a lot, or a phrase I used a lot, but it's slow down to go fast. And actually, I used it like this: slow down to speed up. I think I got it from a mentor of mine, Rich Litvin. And I really believe that's a powerful phrase that we've got to understand. Sometimes it's not just charge hard and just go, go, go. We slow down a little bit to take perspective. We slow down to look at it. Maybe we slow down to sharpen the saw and get better at something, or look at it from a new perspective. When you slow down, you're purposely being intentional. You want to make sure that you're also looking at where you need to grow others. You don't just keep going and hammering people. You want to make sure that you are coaching and leading others. And so you have to identify that when you slow down. And sometimes just the nature of the business, the chaos that more sales creates, you want to create a stronger foundation and stabilize the business. I've worked with a lot of clients that were in those phases where we had to stabilize before we can put the growth engines back on. But that stabilization was very, very important. So I leave you with that just to think about slowing down to speed up. And back to Lance. What I found is it's typically the wrong answer 99% of the time because it's a trap. In some
Right.
cases, you do it better. I've had, CEOs of $10 million companies that have outsourced to VAs 50% of their work. They weren't thinking about it before,
Right.
right? They weren't thinking about how they could give away what they're holding on to.
Right.
There's many reasons for that. I mean, I could unpack them with you, but I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. Slowing down to go fast is a very common thing. I was just saying, I used to say it a lot in my coaching, but it doesn't come up as often. And I bet this will trigger the use of this more, because that's one reason why I do these podcasts. I don't think I even shared this with you in our preamble of getting to know each other, Lance, is I do a lot of these interviews to tune in to how people are thinking and see the world. And this is something you're reminding me of that I've always thought, and I see it in my own life for sure, slowing down to speed up. Lance, we're talking about effective leadership, and we've been talking about values. We've been talking about how you approach, being introspective and growing as a leader. Is there anything else that you think of really as important to this concept of building effective leaders around you as your company scales?
Yeah, we've definitely we've tried to invest in that leadership training for all of our executive team, not just me and my business partner. We hold biweekly leadership meetings. We call it SEAL Team 6 meetings, because there was a talk that Simon Sinek gave about trust, and the trust factor is bigger than the effectiveness factor, right? So who do I trust? I would rather delegate to someone that I trust than someone that I know solely has the skill set, but might not have the culture fit or the personality to carry this endeavor forward.
Yeah, I know exactly the video you're talking about, and it's certainly a part of it. I'm just curious with the leadership training, not to mention that I'm asking you to mention it because you didn't go through my programs, but what is it that you liked about those programs, and what is it you wish was a little bit different in the way it was delivered?
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to name exact platforms or resources, but what I would say is that it's helpful to have an outside perspective, an objective perspective that is not related to your business in particular, and to be able to come in and use tools that were developed to kind of draw out issues or draw out opportunities for learning and leadership training. I find that the couple of resources that we've used are, I don't want to say canned, but they're basically systematized, and it's kind of presented as a one size fits all. And we're a very custom oriented company. Everything that we do is custom. We design from the ground up. We do not carry any kind of standard line of products or anything like that. So it'd be nice to have a resource that comes in and actually looks at our business, and I think that that's the opportunity, is to engage in resources and mentors that will take a deeper dive into our company in particular.
Well, that aligns with the way I see things. So I get where you're going with it. There's some value to having that systematized training, right? It's the same for everyone. A book is a good example of that. It doesn't change based on who's reading it.
Right.
Now, how we receive the information we get reading the book changes not only by who the person is, but it changes by the mood that we're in. If we're in a good mood, we're going to read something and feel something different from that experience. That aside, I get what you mean by saying that a little bit more customization and something that really people will look at your business and get into to know you. One of the things we do differently, just to let you know, is we want to tune into the values, because we know that values are important to our clients. And we want to look and use those inside the conversations that we have with these clients. So if you value transparency, for example, then we're going to use that inside the training. You laugh there. I guess that's
I,
probably
I
one of
laugh
your
because that's you said transparency, and that's the reason why we named the company Clarity.
values.
Honestly, yeah, there's a
So
story behind that, but yeah.
yeah. So totally agree with you. And that's what we're in alignment around that. Lance, I really appreciate you being here to talk about how to build effective leaders in your companies as you scale. So I really appreciate your wisdom, and thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I love conversations like this. We get into the heart of building leadership. How this leader, Lance, looked at things is really helpful. Talking about how important values are, talking about being introspective as a leader, getting training for your leadership team and getting them all aligned. Those are all things that are absolutely necessary as your company is scaling, and that will help you build the leaders that you need as your company grows. When you think of anything that you need help with and you think that I might be able to help you, I'd love for you to reach out. Just send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. Quick and easy. Love to connect with you. And then when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.